saying. One thing I think people like to sort of know about is, one thing I think a lot of people are curious about is that this film was a three-way collaboration between filmmakers for you guys. And can you talk about the logistics of the collaboration and also sort of what each person brought that was unique to the situation and experience?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks so much, everyone, for being here on this very rainy night. So I really appreciate it. Or we all appreciate it. And also, we want to shout out, you did shout out the directors earlier, but I also want to shout out Chelsea Hernandez, who couldn't be here, and who's one of the directors, and also Diane Kwan, our super producer. So
yeah, give all the kudos you need. Yes, this is incredible team worked on this, please.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. I started the film way back in February. Well, I pitched it in February 2020. Not officially, but I pitched it to the 19th News. Basically, Emily and Amanda. And at the time, it was just going to be a film for the first year of their life, and especially following them as they covered the presidential campaign, because that was going to be such a consequential election in 2020. And at the time, there was only 6 or 7 people on staff, including Aaron Haynes. And they agreed to go ahead and get started and see how that went. But then, of course, a month later, everything changed because of COVID. So I was just recording Zoom meetings, and I had always envisioned it being a team of different filmmakers. And so, but then when COVID happened, I was like, well, I can't reach out to anyone now because it's COVID, and I don't even know if it's going to be a film anymore. So I was just recording Zoom meetings, and then I finally filmed in person in August 2020 at their official launch. And that's when I realized it could be something good, something real. And so the next day I called Chelsea Hernandez, and then the two of us approached Princess, and of course, and Diane Kwan, and that's how the team came together. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that Princess really gave a lot to the team in terms of not only the fact she's an excellent editor as well. I mean, she didn't edit the film, but her being an editor for pay for her real gig, or no, for her like gig where she makes like have really helped the editing and post-production process so much. And then also Princess is really good about making sure that the team in general was well, like with the 19th, I guess, like we were also having our own internal conflicts and discussions around all these issues. And Princess was kind of a leader in that, and getting us to all like talk about it, and to be frank and open and transparent about all of it. And so I think that really, really helped, not just the team, but the film in general. So anyway.
But overall, the 3 directors, once we were all on board for the project, we split up locations because the journalists were all across the U.S. So when we narrowed down who would be our main participants, like I was covering the Northeast, Heather, since she started the project early on, she was filming a lot with Aaron. And then when Kate came on, Kate is in LA, Heather's in LA, so Heather followed Kate a lot. Chelsea kind of stuck around Texas and also filmed Chibelli in Orlando. Whenever the 19th would come to like DC or meetups and things like that, I would film. So we had so much footage, hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage. It took 2 years to edit this film, one editor each year. It was a process, but that's documentary filmmaking anyway.
That's true. Thank you for that. This film has had an incredible trajectory since its premiered last summer. And if you would, could you speak to the film's impact campaign and how it's reaching people outside of traditional screening spaces?
You want to start, but what are hopes? What the hopes for impact more than, because we actually haven't done
well. We are, no, we're working on it. You're working closely with Red Isle. I mean, Heather is like overseeing a lot of that stuff, and it's going really well. But our main impact for this film is for organizations and newsrooms, corporations to really recognize the importance of change and change, allowing important discussions to happen within workplaces, and learning how to listen to people who have often been marginalized in so many ways and haven't had a voice in a lot of those spaces. And so, you know, as you saw, the 19th, the leadership within the 19th learned a lot from their staff. Unfortunately, often folks from marginalized communities have to do a lot of the legwork to bring that change to the forefront, and also work on healing themselves, because it is kind of traumatizing to keep doing that type of work, and also not having anyone to support you while you're doing that challenging work, because you could lose your job, you know, honestly. So it is tough, and we're hoping that, you know, the tough discussions that you saw here that we captured, and we didn't even capture all of them. They had so many tough discussions, but the few that we did capture and you saw in the film, it was very, you can tell how pivotal that is for anyone to see those type of discussions happening in leadership. You know, people from different lived experiences recognizing their blind spots, recognizing where they need to make some adjustments, where they need to rethink how they've been trained to think, you know. And so that is a central point, or central points, for our impact campaign. And we hope that people take this and realize that it's okay to have those tough discussions. It's okay if you don't get it right on the first time, second time. The way that the 19th pivoted, they went in with a great mission, but they had flaws in their mission. They brought on someone who was not considered a woman, who, you know, LGBTQ plus rights and gender equity became a forefront because they had to listen to the voices that they had in the room.
Yeah, and I would add to that as well that what we, like Princess mentioned, we're working with Red Owl, the amazing Red Owl, to do impact campaign, and we're focusing. We're trying to show it on a panel with some of the 19th journalists at a couple of journalism conferences, including the Online News Association, National Association of Black Journalists, and National Association of Hispanic Journalists, and then the I think it's called LGBT. Well, it's the LGBTQ plus Journalists Association, and I forget what the acronym is, but anyway, it's they have a conference as well in the fall, next fall. So anyway, we're focusing on those and hoping that we can do a panel, show the film or parts of the film with some of the 19th journalists being there to guide the discussion. And beyond that, like Princess said, I think the most inspiring thing, at least for me, was seeing how the 19th leadership was willing to make mistakes and be messy in the process of making real change. And so I think that can often be what keeps people from really having hard discussions and really making change, is that they feel like they're going to say something wrong or make a mistake, and I think they then shy away from really doing the work, and the 19th obviously really did the work. So I think it's very inspiring for that reason. And then, of course, students and, journalism students and affinity groups on campuses, like LGBTQ plus groups on campus, and students of color, and all of that. So, yeah, we have a lot of ideas. If any of you have any ideas for some screenings, let us know. And some actions, that'd be great.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And what is great about this film is how much, with small town journalism, or all journalism really in jeopardy, especially small town journalism, newspapers, and even broadcast journalism in jeopardy. I love that your film has the ability to show everyone, including communities that may not be plugged into the documentary world or film festival world to become aware of what's possible in the newsroom, what a modern news room and journalism operation can look like. This is a great opportunity to open up for questions and comments from you guys. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Judith?
One is because they're so, like the term, like it's off the record. Oh, sorry. So the term off the record, like just as you were saying, that it's okay to be messy. So how messy were they in front of you all? Like, when did they know better than anybody that it's really great to get that cool quote, or to really see what's going on, or so it's one thing when someone doesn't really understand like exactly that what they just said was really dramatic, or that the messiness is really cool, or that mistakes are great. Like, we love that as nonfiction artists, but they know that, and then that they know that. Like, how were you able to get that? And when did they, and how did they ever course correct and then say, oh, I guess that's okay, this is like part of the historical record, this is right?
Well, I mean, they didn't let us film everything. They didn't give us access to everything. I mean, there's that part in the film where you see Emily telling me to turn the camera off. So yeah, I mean, which is fine. I mean, I think they did it more to protect the staff of the 19th. That wasn't really, and not protect like their careers, but just so they would have a safe space to have these discussions without a camera being there, so it made total sense, that we didn't get access to it. But they did let us film some things. I mean, there's all this stuff around the Central Park incident with, I forget her name, but we always called her
Karen?
this. Well, we always called her the Central Park Karen, but she has a different name. But anyway, so they did let us film some of that stuff, and then they were willing to talk about a lot of that stuff later too. So,
In the beginning, the Zoom calls and like some of the early filming, we did catch them off guard having those discussions where they kind of forgot that they were being filmed, and that stuff was tough. I'm pretty sure if they had to go back, they probably wouldn't have wanted it in there, because what newsroom will show you those type of discussions? What organization will show you, when one of the founders is really not getting it, not connecting with why this is an important story to tell? A Black woman having to explain why it is an important story to tell, why it does connect to the 19th mission statement, the asterisk. So we did capture some things that they were like very kind of taken aback by. And then also you see when Emily has a major dilemma, where there's an important discussion happening, where she asked Heather to turn off the camera, like it can't be in the film. Like, I think, they were kind of getting used to being filmed at a point, and was like, turn the camera off. But it was very few times that they did that. I think we had to be careful when we were filming them. They started to get comfortable, but we started to say, okay, we're dealing with dual pandemics. Maybe they're getting overwhelmed with having us filming all the time. We were the only people in their spaces during the pandemic. Their family members weren't even there.
Wow.
It was just them and their pets, or their family members. And so we would have to be strategic, like, we're going to go in here and film, try to cover this story that they're filming, try to get all the cutaways to make it a scene. And that's just how we had to maneuver, because we couldn't follow them all the time. So, we hope that you do get the sense that they were having tough things, and like we captured some of them where you can see on film, but there were a lot that we couldn't get access to in a room.
and we did show them a rough-ish cut, or fine, between rough and a fine cut maybe. And for the most part, they were, they didn't say take that stuff out or whatever, the tough discussions that are there, like around the Central Park and all that. They, in some ways, they were like, well, you need to add this, this, and this. There was a lot of adding more info. And, a few things, I mean, and this happens whenever, or not whenever, but a lot of times documentary filmmakers show their participants the rough cut, and you take their feedback and so there were a few things that they were a little uncomfortable with. And so we didn't take it out, but we re-edited some of those scenes so that it was, a better portrayal of that scene too, with their feedback. So anyway.
Just the little question is, so it's a national platform, but they obviously do hyper local stuff. But is there anything in their future that you could imagine them really trying to help, like the small local newspapers that have gotten so swallowed up that they can't be as local as they used to be? Like, is there some kind of local equivalent, or that they create some kind of, something that helps, where they have like a bunch of local editors and they do like satellites or something like that?
Well, their journey is very unique because it was started with just a few group of women who left their jobs to follow Emily for this new startup. The fact that they even survived, there's a section where you see all these newsrooms, all these papers closing, all these newsrooms closing. What they did was partner with the Washington Post what they did just in the beginning. And then what they did was they told any of the news outlets that you can republish our stories. And that's how they kind of started to grow. For free. I think just to see this type of newsroom grow the way it did was just phenomenal, in a sense where all of these newsrooms are closing. It's a pandemic. Emily's wheelhouse is truly funding. She really worked hard to bring the 19th enough money to bring on more reporters other than Emily. Also, she didn't follow the legacy news model where we're just going to have this one location. We're going to bring in all these guys to report on regular mainstream ways of reporting. She brought on women and gender nonconforming folks in various states. She started to build and really truly bring in various voices that had not even gotten a voice in newsroom. The way that they tell the stories, you can tell the headlines are very different than mainstream media. The way that they chose to allow their journalists who do come from different lived experiences to tap into their lived experiences to tell stories differently. That stuff really worked for them. But the fact that Emily was able to fundraise it, you see they started with $20,000, and by the end of this film, 35 million. When we got to Tribeca, she was at 50 million. She's way beyond that now. Just to have a newsroom with that type of financial power is amazing. So hopefully, we don't know how she'll help other journalists locally. It's just amazing to even have that fellowship, the HBCU fellowship. So, yeah.
We have time for just one more question before you have to wrap up. Yes?
It was amazing. I can't thank you enough.
If you would, please use the microphone. Thank you.
Sure. It was a completely stunning film. I have so many questions and so little time. So but two really. One was how you conceptualized this. Like, when you started out, how did you choose to shape it as a story? And did you see it growing the way it did? Because it seems like you started so early. And the other, pick whichever one you want, is, there's such a need for, I know you're talking a lot about community build out, but there's such a need to inform mainstream journalism. Going into these newsrooms and changing the psychology of coverage. And so it just seems to me that that's where a lot of the work needs to be done, which is also, there are efforts being made around climate, but what you're doing here seems to really need to be done in mainstream.
In terms of, I can sort of address the first part of your question, which I'm sorry, I'm brain dead. It was, it was about, the shaping of the story. Yes. So like I said, when I first pitched it, I thought I was going to be following all these journalists at the 19th covering the presidential election, like out in the field. I thought I was going to be running around all over with other film directors that we'd be running around covering their coverage of the 2020 presidential election through the lens of gender, because 2016, a lot of mainstream journalists did not do a good job with covering that election from the lens of gender because of the way Hillary was often portrayed in the press and everything. So yes, it did. That changed completely when the pandemic happened, because they also pivoted. Their coverage was not. I mean, there was no campaign anymore. I mean, it was just all virtual, and so everything started to change. And I didn't even realize maybe until like halfway through filming that, yes, the thing that is really much more interesting and makes it a much better film are the sort of internal conversations that they themselves are having around these issues too. And and I think we started to realize that, and realized towards the end, the stuff that we didn't have access to, we were able to ask them about it towards the end. And in post-production, I mean, you should speak to that too, how it changed.
In post-production, we had so much footage. Once the editors started shaping out scenes, like once we saw the first round from like the Breonna Taylor scene, we were like, oh my God, we forgot we sent Aaron a camera. Like we just forgot how important and the magnitude of that scene until we saw it shaped together. Like, okay, because, in the beginning, we're like, who's going to want to watch all these Zoom calls? They've got to get out in the field. When is this pandemic over? And then, what is it? The lift, it was lifted that we can come outside. And we were like, okay, we're going to be following them around for the rest of the film. And then it was another shutdown. So we were dealing with dual pandemics, and we honestly realized like we have to go back and watch this footage, see what was really important. And there were so many great important discussions within that first year that we really had to make a decision and say, hey, these are things that we need in the film. Like this is going to shape the story. Like this is where you truly see how they are being shaped as the 19th, a new org, how they're realizing that their mission is not fully what they need to, it's not fully inclusive, so in the edit is where we started to see like, okay, now we kind of know how this story is shaping out to be. It wasn't just about let's wait till the journalists go outside and try to follow them, or a lot of it was like, how are we going to make this not feel so claustrophobic as a Zoom film? And I think that's where like our team dynamic really helped, with 3 directors and a producer. Like hopefully you don't feel claustrophobic, and you really get the true magnitude of the importance of why women should be in great positions to lead, how we need to be reshaping discussions around gender, and include LGBTQ plus folks, and how just we as humans in the world, we're changing, we're progressing. Like saying like, this is how it was back in the day, and that's all I'm gonna, that's how I'm sticking to it. That's not acceptable in the world that we live in today, and hopefully our children will be saying the same things and won't be doing some of the things we're doing now that are still harmful to all people. So it's like how they were moving is like, okay, we're making mistakes. We need to pivot. We need to listen. We need to have these tough discussions, and we need to change our mission statement. We need to learn and grow from this. And so hopefully all of us can do that individually as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And on that note, we unfortunately have to wrap up, but this discussion's been amazing. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Princess, for being here. We appreciate it. And thanks to Chelsea Hernandez for contributing to this film also. Thank you for coming out and joining us.
Shout out to our editors too. Shout out to our editors who insisted we need to watch that Zoom footage.
Spread the word about breaking the news.
Jamie Boyle and Christina Montwan.
Thank you.
Good night.